Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today during the session. I'm just going to quickly put my camera on that you can at least see me. There we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today during this first financial statement session that we have. Just a few housekeeping items. As always, everyone is muted, but for obvious reasons, this is such a big group. But please interact with us. You're welcome to use the questions pane to ask any questions during the sessions. And yes, the sessions will be recorded and this will be made available to you after the session. For those of you that doesn't know who I am, my name is Ninka. I'm the product manager for the financial statements, and that means I'm responsible for the SME, the IFRS, as well as the XBRL and consolidations. With me today, I've got Angela. She's our content owner for these products, which means her main focus is the compliance elements that goes into these every day. So you will see that our agenda has changed a little bit, but what we are going to do today is we're going to go through the online e-learning, and I'm just going to show you on how it works, why we are doing it, and also what you can do if you haven't registered yet or you haven't received your link yet on it. Then I'm going to show you the introduction to other videos and resources that we have available. Besides our Get Ahead, we also have a YouTube channel, and I just want to show you everything that's available there. Then we're going to jump into the community. A lot of you have seen it already as you've downloaded your information there. And then what we are going to do is we're going to go through the steps to download your software, because you have, if you're not familiar with it or you don't have it yet, and we're going to start our interactive session today. So now in the agenda, it said that we're going to only do that in session 2, but we did find that quite a few people haven't done the e-learning yet. So we thought it would be good to start the interactive session today. And then in session 2, we'll have a brief recap of what we did today, and then we will go on with the rest. So for the item that did not make it on the agenda today, the formatting, we will definitely cover that in the future sessions. But like I say, as the basis on the e-learning is not 100% complete, we would rather focus on that today. So right, with that, I'm going to start a poll for us, because it always helps me to get an understanding of where everybody is. So if you can please answer the question, and the question is, how far are you with the onlining? You've completed it, and then well done if you did. You have started it, but maybe not completed. Have logged in, had a look, haven't done it. Or you may be asking what is the online e-learning, because you've never heard about it before, or you haven't gotten any communication about it. So I'm going to give that a minute for everybody just to give us an answer where they are. Let's see if you have completed it, but let's give it like 30 seconds more. Right, so if I look at it, about 7–8% of you have completed it. Well done, you are well on your journey. Then some of you have started, about 30%. 30% have logged in but not started, and then I have about 40% that doesn't know about the e-learning. So for those of you that have started, the practical sessions will definitely be the most beneficial if you have started it. And I would really encourage you to go through it before our next session if you haven't. If you are the one that is what online e-learning, I'm going to take you through the process now. If you have not received a link to the e-learning platform, please put your details for me in the questions pane. We're going to try and resolve some of it while during the session, but if not, we will also address all of it after the session. So if you haven't received login and that's why you haven't started, then please do put your information in the chat. Okay, I'm going to close that one for us. Right, and then let's go into what is the e-learning. So we have to, sorry, I'm just hearing some feedback that there's sound issues, but it looks to me like we are okay with sound, so I'm just going to check. So can you just confirm maybe in the questions pane for me, if you can just put your hand up, if you can hear me, because it seems like some people can't, and I just want to make sure if it's on my side or on your side. So if you can hear me, just put your hand up. Okay, there is some hands. So it looks like you can hear me. So if you do have issues, please just go out and in again. It should resolve it. I also have a computer that loves to do noise cancellation, so it might be that it just decided I was pausing for too long. So I'll try to keep it going. Right, so for you that have seen the e-learning before, this is basically how it looks. And we've got 2 courses available for you for the financial statements specifically. So we have the Caseware Working Papers Level 1, and then we have the Financial Statements Level 1. You have to complete the Caseware level 1 first before you can do the financial statement level. So what we did is everybody that registered for our different tracks for the email that went out in the beginning, we took that list of people and we registered you for Caseware Working Papers Level 1. And when we registered you, you should have received an email to say, listen, we did register, and you click on it and then you go along. So if you didn't, it means that perhaps you didn't register for it, you used somebody else's login, or the email is blocked, or there was a glitch on our side. So please, like I say, do reach out to us if any of you do have any of those issues. If you, and I'm going to mention this as well, although this is not an audit session, there's also the Get Ahead audit at the session here at the bottom. So if you are an audit, please do make sure that you are also doing what you need to do for the audit sessions, because those are pre-course work. And it really is beneficial if you could do that before the sessions to get the most out of it. So the working papers and the financials is a little bit different, and I'm going to quickly jump into it just to show you how it looks in real life. So this is how the browser will look, and how it is set up is that we have, if I quickly go in the working papers one, you've got little short videos of different topics. Now I'm going to go through the topics now, but for example, you have create file here, and then you have like 4-minute, 9-minute, 7-minute videos on the different things that you can do. So if it is too much to do at once, they are broken up in small concepts. So if you take half an hour a day or 20 minutes in your day, you can probably get through 3 to 5 of these videos easily. And so in this process, you will work through them. And that's why we broke it up in small videos. When you're done with the working papers one, there's a little questionnaire that you do, and it's basically just to make sure that you understand all the concepts that is covered. And then after that, you will be able to continue to the financial statements, which work in exactly the same way. If I just jump back to my slides, and I just want to see, sorry guys, just want to scroll back here a bit. So for the working papers, you'll see these are all the videos that we cover, and we have the same for the financial statements, which is kind of an organogram. So in the past, we always try to do that you can kind of do a workflow, but we do appreciate that some of you might start a new file, some of you might do a roll forward file. So not everybody is on the same journey when they do create a file, but this gives you an overview of all the videos that are available. So what this means is if you are done with your course, you can always go back to the videos if you can't remember on how to do annotations under Document Manager. You can go back and have a look at it, and it's a resource that's available to you the whole time. So please use it, please get familiar with it. The same with the financial statements, you'll see there's quite a lot. For the edit financial statement, there's a lot of videos, but they're like really, really short videos, and therefore would encourage you to also go through those. Okay, then next I would like to congratulate the following 3 attendees. They were the first ones to complete the e-learning, so congratulations to you. You found the time and put in the effort to get it done. And we will reach out to you to just send you a small goodie bag from us to say, well done. I know a lot of you, this is your first years, so this might be the first time that you that you get to know Caseware. So well done to you, and we will reach out to send you, like I say, a goodie bag to show our appreciation of participating in this as well. Right, with that, I'm going to jump into the Caseware community. So most of you would probably have seen the or at least gone to this page, where you would have get the information about this, the information that you need to download for the sessions. The recording links is also on here, on how it works, FAQ, everything is on here. So you can scan the QR code if you want to, but I'm also going to just jump quickly into that on the website to just show you quickly the community. So this is the page that you would be familiar with. And if I scroll down, you would also see now that there's learning resources for financial statements that we've uploaded yesterday. So this is what we will use during the session a little bit later. It's 2 very small Excel files. So we also put it in the handout section of the webinar. Or you can go to the community and you can click there if you want to download. So if in the meantime can download it, but don't worry too much, because we will have a 10 minutes break in between my session and when Angela starts, so that you can make sure that you have everything ready for our session as we go along. But I do want to encourage you also to use the community further than that. If you do go to the community, you'll see there's a search bar at the top. And then all our latest communication go on here. So if you don't get an email, or maybe you're not, so you miss it in between, or whatever the case might be, everything that we do communicate, we do put on here, and much more. So if we see there's a lot of questions about a certain thing that's new, maybe that we released last year, or there's new events coming up, or like we had the MSCO release this last week, then you would see this all comes up here. So really use the community to come and have a look if there's anything that's maybe available to you. And then it also has, I'm going to scroll up a little bit here to the top. If we do have any immediate crises, we also put it here in the banner at the top. So we had some SIPSI portal XBRL changes. So we put on here if you need a hot fix. Windows 11 is giving some script errors for caseware. So there's like a little patch that you can run. So if you go to the community page, it's as your first protocol, it always helps our support consultants, because it's really very easy to go on and to find the solutions. So for example, you have the C100-100 error. This one is very, very common. So then you can just follow the steps here and you can self-help yourself. Right, so I'm going to jump back to the slides. Next, what you can also do on the community is you can download your software. So so what you can do, so let me just jump quickly back there. So if you are logged in, you will see, and you scroll here to the top to your name, you have certain areas there. So if you're not the firm champion, you might not have all the options available there. But if you are, you will have the My Software, where you can download it, create and install for you, and you can install it on your computer. If you are at an audit firm, then normally they distribute it through internally through the IT division. So it's not necessarily required for you to go and download it, but we also have some people on the call that is not necessarily just audit logs. So I do want to highlight, if you do need the software, that is where you would find it. Then, like I say, I also want to introduce some other videos and resources, and again, a QR code for you if you want to scan. All the videos that we do have, we put on YouTube as well. So if you have missed any of the previous sessions, this is the first financial statement one, but the one maybe with the introduction one, or one of the audit sessions, you don't have to wait for the email. You can also go and have a look on the community, on the YouTube channel when it becomes available. There is also other on the YouTube channel. So if you follow it, you will see that there's lots of videos available here. We have like the series of the previous get-aheads. And then if I scroll down, all are like, here's the audit ones that is passed already, and then lots of other popular videos. The ones that's for the financial statements, the most popular, is our cash flow worksheet videos. So you can also search here in the search bar. I search here for cash flow, and it will bring up. And you'll see here was like 1,500 people that watched it already. So this is also a very, very good resource for you to come and have a look if there's maybe something that you want to catch up on. So I am going to launch another poll, and it's also just to understand where we are when we do the practical session. And the question is, have you worked on caseware this year? So yes, I've drafted financials. I'm using it every day. Yes, I have, but I've not used the financials yet, so you might be using it for audit or for something else. It is installed. You got it with your PC in the beginning of the year, but you've not worked on it yet, which is perfectly fine. It's not installed. You're just busy with training at this point. It will only be installed later. Oh no, not this year, but I have worked on it last year. And like I say, we normally do. This is more for our for the audit logs, but we do have a lot of other people also joining the sessions. So I see quite a few. I'm going to give it like 30 seconds. Okay, so if I look at the poll, then I can see that about 52% of you have already drafted financials. So that is great. So you guys are in the midst of it. Then some have used it, but not for financials. Some have it installed, but haven't worked on it yet. 10% of you have not installed, and then there's a little bit of you that used it, but not this year. So for the 10% that it's not installed, you can go in our 10-minute break and install it where I showed you on the community, but you also don't have to. You are more than welcome to just follow what we're going to do today. Like I say, in the next session, we will recap again on what we've done today, and you can also do it afterwards. If you do have a firm setup, just remember also that there might be admin rights and security and all of that needs to be sorted out before you install it. So maybe don't go and install it if you don't have those sorted, or if you're not the admin on your PC. Okay. Right. Again, I'm just going to remind you that you can download the Excel file. It is either on the community that I showed you, or in the handouts. There's two Excel documents. The one is a TB and the one is the information documents, very, very small. So you can just download them and make sure that you have them somewhere on your computer. Right, so I'm going to now talk a little bit about the different options of creating a new file. So for today's session, we only are going to do a new file, but there is various options available, and it's quite important to understand what the differences are, because that will determine the output and what you get. And in different scenarios, you will have different options. So the first one is a brand new file. So this is the one that we will do today. And that is normally if you, for various reasons. I mean, if it is new client, if it's, and also for any one of these options, there might be a company policy like we always do new file. So whatever the reason are, but a new file means it's a brand new template. There's nothing in it, nothing retains. It takes the latest templates that's installed on your computer and it creates a file based on that. So you have various templates available. We're going to work on the SME one today, but if you only have IFRS installed, you're welcome to use that one as well. And that is then going to create it on there. You can only have one template installed for IFRS or for SME, whatever the product is. As soon as you have more than one, you're going to run into potentially some technical difficulties, because the scripts and what is in a firm template to compared what's in the template might be different. So please do make sure that if you guys do have a firm template, that you only have the firm template installed, and then don't go and install it from the community. So new file is the one that you're going to do today, so I'm not going to talk much about that. It's quite self-explanatory. Then you have create new file and client data. So we also internally always refer to file new from existing, because it's just more explanatory than maybe create new file and import data. But what it does is it basically takes the template as your base, if you want to say your mold, and it puts the information what was in the previous year into the template. So if you have done, if you perhaps broke something in the past, or there's a lot of new disclosure, or whatever the case might be, then this is the best option. It is also suggested to use this option if you have a firm template. And let me maybe just explain why. So if you have a firm template or a firm champion, what they will do each year is they will go through our standard template And then they will have a look and say, right, for your firm specific requirements, we might need other expenses by nature note. And then they build that in the firm template. So when you install your file or your template, then that will be your default note if you have a new file, right? Because that's a note that's available in your template. But if you now do not do a file from existing, if you do the third option, your template is not going to know that's a new note. There's no way to know that what customization has been done in a firm template. So that's why it's better to do your firm template as a base then, and then all your information pulls in. So if you do a file from existing or create file and import data, you will retain your info store, your TB, and your journals. And we also have now all your input fields, like your yellow cells, will retain. So that is something that we changed in the last 2 years. So in all the files going forward, that should be the case. But it is important to note that if you have customization or a text section, so your accounting policies, those will not retain. So that's why I say it's very important to understand what the outcome is going to be before you start the file, to know if this is the best route for you to do with a specific file. So if you have firm template, then I would suggest that this is your best option to use. But if you have a lot of customization on a file, it is worth exploring if this is the right option for you. Okay. We also do recommend, if you have a file that is quite old, or you don't know where the file came from because maybe there was a little bit of design mode, builder mode, and all that going on, so you don't know the credibility of the file that you've received, then we also recommend that you rather do create new file and import data. So just save your time from a new file. But then you know your background information is all up to date and the latest template. I'm just going to pause there quickly and just double check if there's any questions on that. Just looking at Angela here, but she says no questions. If you do, you're welcome to ask questions throughout. I'm going to have a look at it in between the different topics if there's something specifically that comes up. Okay, then the other option, sorry, I do think there's one question. Let me just quickly have a look here. Okay, no, that is still a login on e-learning, that's fine. So this is just the next step if you do the create new file, the create file and import data. Then how your screen will look is you will create it from an existing file. So like I say, you will use the template, but the information from an existing file that you have will pull into this file. Right, then you have the other option, which is update file. And what this does is you will then, if you have a file and you've now got the latest template installed, what it does is it goes and look in the background and say, did the PPE version number change from this year to last year compared to the template that I've got installed? So say we have done no changes on the PPE note, the PPE note will retain as it is. If we have changed something in the PPE note, then your PPE note will be replaced. So this method does not take the template as a base, it takes your file as a base. So because of that, it does make sense that if you have not updated for a few years, or whatever the scenario is, it is not the best option to use in that scenario, because your template and the technology in the background changes year on year. We at Caseware only support and only test 2 years. That's part of our SLA. So if you've got a file that you've updated from 5 years ago, it might work perfectly, but we can't say it will because we don't test that. So our recommendation always is, if a file is older than 2 years, then rather do the create new file option, because there we can there we have tested the integrity of the files after the process is followed, where with the update, it might not give you the result that you need. But if you do have, especially like very small files, you just want to roll forward, you do want to put it on the latest template, and you know there's no major customization and there wasn't a lot of compliance changes, then the update option is your best option. It is important to note on the update option that I would recommend that you do in the read or the release notes more importantly than maybe with the others, to make sure you understand which notes are going to change. So you will, if you do your prior figures, you can see, okay, this note has changed and this note has changed, but you might not know why. So do remember, we always do compliance changes first. That's our main priority. But also, if we get requests from the market, or if there's maybe something that didn't work as expected, or there's a better way of working it, we might replace other notes as well. We always try to do it on the lowest level. So if you have a big trade receivable note, for example, and it's a subsection that we need to change on the fair value disclosure, we will only replace that section. But you might experience then that your file doesn't look like the same like before update, and we do get some calls on that. So important to the expectation what there is when you follow the different actions. And this is the update screen, which you will find on the update option. So if I just go one back, normally when you update it or I've installed the latest template, when you open an old file, it will automatically bring up that update screen. If you ever canceled it or lost it or it's not coming up, you can also just click on this check for update on the ribbon bar. And then what will happen is that this option will come up. So if you choose here the new and replace financial statements, this is the same as a new file. It's just prompting you to do a new file there. Where the update the financials is the one where your unaffected customizations will be retained. It will just be on the latest template. But like you can see here, we also recommend it for maximum data retention in the files not older than 2 versions back of the market version. Okay. So those are the different update options. Like I say, what the process is in your firm is the one that I would suggest you follow. But I do think it's important to know the difference between the different methods. If you have a very specific or customized or old file, then there might be a different solution that is better for that specific file. And it also helps to the expectation, the planning of how long the process might be. If you have a very old file with a lot of customization, and now you're going to create file and import data, you might have to redo some of that customization on the latest template. So that will obviously take a little bit longer than it would if you just do a roll forward. Okay, I'm going to check if there is any questions. I've got a few questions and I'm just going to have a look here. So I've got somebody here that asks, at our firm, normally when we make a new case, we file for a new financial year and some updates pop up. Like a week or so after it's been made, we are told to not update because it may mess with the template. Is this generally true and advisable? So this update won't do anything to your template. It only works on your engagement file. So what it does is it incorporates your latest template to that specific engagement file. You can postpone it. So just on that, if you have any file that you are busy with, I would not recommend to update it at any point in time. What you started with, it's always better to just finish with what you have, except if there was a lot of compliance changes and you had a huge delay for one and another reason, and it makes sense. But if you are going to update mid-process, you will have to go back and make sure that nothing else has now changed. So if you get the update screen, but the file has already been started and now the firm template is only rolled out in March, but you're like 80% done, then I will definitely not update it. But for any other cases, it doesn't change your update. Your template. I hope that answered the question. Okay, then can you also open these files even when you're still busy with training and have not yet installed the application? So if you have not done the training, then definitely you can open the files, but you will have to have the caseware installed. And remember, there's 2 elements to caseware. There's the caseware working papers that I refer to, and the template. So you'll have to install both to be able to edit it. If you just want to view it, you can just install, no, you have to install both. Sorry, I'm correcting myself. So you can install that. Before you can view it, you can't view or run it if you don't have the software installed on your PC. Then there's a question, will it be possible to make the SME and IFRS templates available to us? So I can't make these templates available to you because this is licensed by your firm. So my suggestion would be is speak to your firm champion. If you're not sure who it is, I can also have a look for you. And then we can reach out to your account manager and then they can advise on who could do it. Or you can also go to the community and you can download there, whatever you've got licensed. But if you don't have it licensed, you can't access the software or the template. I'm just going to give it like 5 more seconds and see if there's any more questions. We do get quite a few questions about the access. And we are working through them and we will respond as we go along. If we don't get to you during the session, we do have a list and we definitely will get through it during the day. So please just bear with us if it is more than what we anticipated. Okay, so for now, we're gonna do a 10-minute break so that you can please ask questions and I will answer them after the session. If you can please go and download the handouts for us in the meantime, and that's why we're making this a little bit longer. And then after the 10-minute break, we're going to have the practical session starting with Angela. So grab some coffee for that, and then we'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the session. Just before, my name is Angela, as Ninka said, and I'm going to be taking you through the practical part of today's session. Just before we go through that, I just want to touch again on the e-learning courses because we did have quite a few of you responding with your email address that you don't have access. So just on that regards, there is a Caseware Working Papers Level 1 course which you have to complete to be able to have access to financial statements. So that's the first step. You can't get into financial statements if you haven't done Working Papers Level 1. Secondly, we're going to post a link in the chat during this session. So if you didn't have access to the course at this point, then please click on the link and it should take you through and you should be able to self-register or should already be registered. You should have access. There was an email that went out, maybe also just check your inbox around about the second week of February regarding your access details to the course. So you can also check that as an alternative. And then finally, everyone who has provided us with their email addresses this morning in the questions, we will be following up personally with you. Just make sure that your name is also attached because sometimes the email address doesn't give us enough information to access you on the system. So just your name as well as your email address, please. Okay, with that being said, the purpose of the next part of the session is to take you through to create a file with you. So we're going to create a brand new file. You should have by now downloaded the handouts. There is a trial balance and then there's a little bit of a client information pack. So if you can just make sure you've got those, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. We're going right down to grassroots because this is aimed at new intake. Once we've created our new file, we're going to complete our information store, which is our static information that we always have in our financial statements. Or in our working papers file, things that don't change year on year, like company registration number, the directors, and so on. And then we're going to import a trial balance, and I'm going to go through a re-import as well, and a few of the mistakes that are made on trial balance import. And then we're going to look at mapping. And I'd like you to please follow me through the process and work with me as I go. And we're going to use the file that we create today. We will use next time to actually go through the financial statements in detail. Okay, so as a starting point, you are going to open your Caseware Working Papers to create a new file. So you should have the icon on your desktop. If not, it should be on your start menu. So I'm going to just go ahead and open up Working Papers. Right, when it opens, it will open up to an open screen, which is literally where you're going to go and open up your previous files. If you're new and it's the first time you have installed the software, you are not going to have anything here. So these are just some of my previous files that we're looking at. I am going to go and open a new file. So you're going to click with me on the blue, what we call the backstage menu, click on new, and it's going to give you the ability now to create a new file. So I'm going to go ahead and create my new file, and I'm going to give it a name. My entity is called Get Ahead Pty Limited. You're welcome to name yours the same, or you can give yourself any other name. Right, so I'm calling mine Get Ahead Pty Limited. The next thing I want to show you is you will see it says in folder, so it gives you the path to where your file is actually created. So if we have a look there, it is in our C drive, and it will be in Program Files Caseware Data. Now, I've only got 2 files at this point in time. You can imagine there could be hundreds of files, well, perhaps not hundreds, but there would be many files sitting here. What I'd like to just mention, this is the default location to where files are saved. It is quite important. You would probably back up or save your files to a network drive. It is quite important that you please run your files out of this data folder. So what I mean by run your files is when you open a file, make sure it's saved here to this location, because that is the scripts run out of this folder, and you have some issues with the file running correctly if it's run out of a different, for example, out of documents or out of a network folder, but you definitely should not be running it out of a network folder. Okay, now just one thing. Imagine if I'm doing my Get Ahead file this year, and I'm going to have this job, let's say, for the next 5 or 6 years, and every time I save Get Ahead in this data folder, I'm going to have a hard time identifying which file is the correct one to open. So I've showed you that to say this. As a naming convention, your firm will probably have specific rules about how you should name files. If they don't, we recommend that you always include the name of the company, but also, or the business, also the year end, because otherwise you're going to have a hard time finding your file. All right, so I'm having a 28 February year end, and now we're going to choose our template. This is very, very important. Ninka has dealt with you and explained how you have to make sure that you have installed the correct templates. It's going to depend on your licensing agreements, but Caseware Working Papers operates with hand in hand with these templates. The content that is included in your file depends on the template which you have chosen. So if you are an entity that complies with IFRS for SME accounting standards, for example, and you use the IFRS template to create the file, you're going to have the wrong compliance, or you're going to be non-compliant. So you have to make sure to select the correct file. So I'm going to use SME. If you only have IFRS, you can go ahead and use that. But if you have got SME, then follow with me. So again, you're going to click on your template, and it's going to give you the option to either just create file, which is your brand new blank template only file, or create file and import data, which Ninka already went through. So we're going to, remember your create file and import data, it's based on the template that's installed, but you would then import information like your trial balance, information store, and other data from a pre-existing file. We're not doing that. We're only going to create new, meaning it will be based on the SME template that is currently installed on my machine, which is this 2024 version at this point. So go ahead and click on Create File for me, and it's going to tell you that you should log in order to copy from this file. So when you get to the login, you'll click OK. Then it tells us to enter our username and password to log in. Now, this is a very, very top secret username. Please don't share it with your friends. No, it's a standard at this point. You're going to SUP, your username, and the password is the same. So for those of you who are new and it's your first time to log in, SUP again for the password. When you get into the files, your supervisors would set you up with security controls, and you would then have different logins perhaps. Okay, so you'll click on OK. I am going to give you a moment just to make sure that you are with me. If you haven't got, my understanding is that we did request that you do these sessions with 2 screens. If you haven't today, if you can just at the next financial statement session, just be sure that you've got a second screen, please. It really just facilitates the process for you so that you can follow me on one side and that you can obviously do the file yourself on the other. Whilst my file is generating, I'm going to have a look and see if there's some questions. Okay, my file is almost ready. There we go. And then when your file is ready, you will re-enter the same password again and username SUP, and click OK. Like I say, please run through this process with me. The purpose here is to get everybody familiar with a relatively simple set of financial statements. All right, as soon as your file has been created, then an engagement properties screen will pop up, which just, we're going to complete this together in a moment. I would like to ask you, please, as you've created your files, if you can just put your hands up when your file is at the engagement properties screen, just so that I can see where you more or less are. And then I just want to get most of you through the process, and then we'll carry on. And please only raise your hands if you are at the engagement properties. If you have a question, you can just pop that into the question box. All right, we're just giving everybody else a few more moments. Just remember on naming your file, you would probably or very likely have an internal or a firm convention for how you should name. You know, there could be underscores or points or whatever involved. But just if there isn't one, like I said, we just suggest that you have the name and the year end included, at least. Okay, I just want to see how we're doing here. We're just checking how many hands are up. Okay, we'll give another minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead now, otherwise we're going to spend too long here. This recording will be made available, so if you do fall behind, you can just go and try it again with the recording later. Okay, so once you've created your file, you will have this engagement properties dialog pops up, and it's going to open up for you on reporting dates. So what's important to set here for this specific file is your year-end date. Now, mine is defaulted to February 2028 for the current year. That is not, they did not pick it up from the fact that I named my file 28 Feb 2025. So you must check this. This is the default. So if you have a December year end, for example, it is going to be wrong. So you can correct this date. There's a little drop down where you can change the date as necessary, and the year beginning date will automatically run aligned with the year end date. Very importantly is the section beneath for your reporting period date sequences. This has really got to do with the sequencing of the import of your trial balance. So if, for example, you might have clients who give you a trial balance every month, or they might give you 2 trial balances a year, so that would be semi-annually, or they would just give you a single 1-year trial balance. So we are looking at annual reporting at this point, so we're only interested in the full year. But what we recommend is best practice is always make sure monthly is checked, because monthly will always make every option really accessible. So click on monthly and on yearly, and then this is going to then allow you to import either monthly trial balance or balances or just a single year. Your current period date sequence is asking you, what are you going to be importing? So we're just going to keep this checked at monthly. And of course, our current active period, because we've chosen monthly, we're given an option of 12 because there's obviously 12 months in a year. So if it was yearly, there would only be a 1 because you can only have 1 active period of a year in a year. This is very important. This can wreak havoc with your nerves during the process. If this should accidentally be set to 1, then caseware is going to be pointed to the first month. And it could look to you like your trial balance was not imported. So let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Don't do it with me. Just stay where you are. I'm going to click OK. And I want you to see that up here on my menu bar, my date changed to March. If you look to the bottom on your status bar, you will see the little one where I'm circling. That means this is my current active period is set to 1. On the top, it's set to March, which is the beginning of the year, which means caseware is going to be looking at the first month in the sequence. So when you've imported your trial balance, as you'll see, we imported period 12, it's going to look like nothing is imported if you are pointing to the wrong month. So to fix this, always check here, always make sure your active period is correct at the bottom or your month is correct on top. You can fix it in the drop down. You can just go, nope, February is where we're at. Or, and I'm going to show you how to reopen the engagement properties. You should still be in yours. You're going to click on the engagement tab on the ribbon. You're going to click on engagement properties. And we were in the reporting dates tab. And you can see that my current active period has reverted to 12. Just a couple of things I'd like to show you just for your awareness. On the status bar is our year-end date, our active period, the fact that it's monthly. And then we have these zeros, which will be your net profit amount. This is currently 0 because we've not imported a trial balance. Okay, so once you're happy with your reporting dates, the other part you need to look at is the name address tab. In here, we have to give the name of our file, or rather of our client. So looking at my status bar again, do you see my file name? Get Ahead Pty Limited, 28 February 2025. That is my file name. Next to it, we've got IFRS for SME, and that is the operating name that is here in engagement properties. This is the name that appears on your financial statements. So you don't want your financial statements for IFRS for SME for the year ended February 2025. You want it for Get Ahead Pty Limited. So please change your entity name in the operating name box. And obviously you're not going to include the year end because this is the entity name. Keep your eye here on the IFRS for SME on the status bar when I click OK. And what has happened is that it has my entity name has changed on my status bar. All right, so we've created our new file and we have completed the engagement properties. Our next step is to fill in the information store. So I could just take you directly to the information store here in our document manager. Sorry, this is for those who are new, this background that we're looking at. This is our document manager. It's our filing system in Caseware Working Papers, where all the documentation which you need will be stored. Please go ahead and dive into those e-learning courses. There is a lot of information about everything to do with Caseware Working Papers. But what I want to say is we're going to complete the information store, which is our static information for this client, and it pulls through to various places in the file, so it is important that you do it. In order to find it, I just want to show you a quick trick. I think it's a bit difficult for me to just have you try and find it and see who's the quickest. So I'm just going to say you'll use your control find function, typical functionality, so control F if you don't know where it is, and then you can go ahead and just type in there, we want the information store. And it'll take you to the information store. You'll see it's in the financial statement preparation folder. This document has got a little C icon, and that little C icon means it's a case view document. Case view is an application built into Caseware Working Papers. It's a report writing document. So wherever you see this little C, it's a report writer, and the editing tools work the same throughout all of the various case view documents. Before I open the information store, I'm just going to click the trial balance folder above to show you there's another document with a different icon that looks like a little gear. These are Caseware generated automatic documents. Okay, so that's just two of the different examples of the type of documents that you will see in Caseware. All right, go and stand on your information store for me and double click it to open it. And you will see it will open to another tab next to the document manager. Oh, sorry, I'm lying to you. It's a Caseware, the Caseware documents that would open next to the document manager. It's actually opened up for you on your taskbar, another little icon. All right, so let's take a look at those. You can see I am currently on my Caseware icon. Next to it, this little document looking icon is a case view icon. Okay, so hopefully you're all here. Now we need to access the handouts that you got, that you would have downloaded from the chat. Before we look at the handouts, I just want to take you through the information store. On the left-hand side, there is a document map. You can close it if you click. Do you see there's a little home tab on top? If you access the home tab, there's a little document map. You can close it if you don't want it there. Click it again to open it. It's just a quick way to run through the information store. So the type of information here is your client information, things like the name of the entity, the legal form, where it's registered, the currency, and so forth. We get engagement variables, which just tells us what kind of report we have. You can put in the type of industry that's going to affect your working papers side. You can put in group information like the parent entities, your tax rate. Of course, contact information, just various addresses. Dates, this includes your incorporation date, your year end, your date of signature of audit report. Column headings, perhaps in your financial statements need to have different column headings, like let's show you an example, like if you want to say that it's restated, then you would activate it here. Then you put in all your directors' details, and finally firm information, which is for the auditor. If you've selected that your engagement is a review in engagement variables, then this would be your reviewer details. and then the preparer being the preparer of the financial statements. Okay, so let's capture the information that we have. You're going to go to your, wherever you've saved your handout. So I'm going to go to my documents where I've saved it in Get Ahead, and it is the information pack. So if you can just open up the information pack. Right, so what we're going to do what I want to show you is, especially if you're working on one screen, it's going to be a bit difficult to jump between. So what I do is stand on the information store, click the Windows button and the left arrow to just do a split screen. Then on the Excel spreadsheet, same story, click on the Windows button and click your right arrow to put the Excel sheet on the other screen. Okay, now we'll go ahead. We're going to start our registered name, Get Ahead Pty Limited. What you see here is that it's a white cell. This is a function of case view documents. A white cell means it's populated from another point and you cannot change it here. This was the name of the entity which you captured into the engagement properties. Yellow cells you can change, you would just type over them, so they're manual input cells. And a yellow cell that already has something in it means it's auto-populated, but you can override. So I'm going to just, as an example, just do a override here to show you what happens. You get a little red dot, which just means that you've changed the calculation in the background. If you ever do that and you didn't mean to, you stand on the cell, right-click, and just click overridden, and it reverts. Okay, so let's go ahead and capture. Registration number is in my information pack. You can literally just copy and paste. Then we've got our legal form of entity. You can use the drop down to select the right entity. Ours is a company. Type of entity as well, it's a small entity. And country of incorporation, important. This drives, it's going to drive your currency. It's going to drive the legislation that is presented in the actual financial statements. So it is important to make sure that you've selected the correct country. If I were to change this now to, for example, Kenya, then the currency will update with it. In the interest of time, I'm not going to make that change. Also, the local legislative act will change for the territories where we've got the specific legislation. It would change to that legislation. Otherwise, it would just say entity specific or industry. I'm not getting on the right word. Legislation applicable to that country. Okay. You can type in nature of business. That pulls through to your general information page. So we could say the company sells cars. So that is what a company does. If there's a trading name or a former entity name, you can incorporate that. And you can just go through. It's quite self-explanatory, the other data that you would include. Our engagement variables, we're going to keep it as an audit report. And you'll see that there is a link here to a PI score calculation. You can go into that and play around with that. That just helps you to determine the PI score of the business, to determine what kind of engagement it should be. Your industry type, we're going to select wholesale and retail sales. Group information, we can just see what we've got. So our parent company, we've got that it's JJMS, so we're going to put that in here. This also just pulls through to your financial statements, to your related party information. And this, let's just say it was also incorporated in South Africa. We don't have an ultimate parent, and I don't see any other information here which is relevant. In South Africa, we've automated the tax rate. If you're in a different country or you're doing financial statements for a different year when the tax information wasn't changed, you'll just update it at this point. Okay, contact information, we're not going to put in all these addresses now. I'm going to jump ahead to the secretary. I see that we do have the company secretary's name, so we can include that. And then moving down to dates. Here we get a bit, so this becomes quite important, so just please take note here. We've got our year end, which pulls through from the engagement property, so we can't change it here. Date of incorporation, you can see we've got 1st of March 2019, so you can either find it using the little calendar, or you can just go ahead and type it in, is probably the quickest way. That's less important of a date. This date of signature of audit report is very important for 2 reasons, which I'll explain now. So it defaults to 3 months after year end. Until obviously you don't know in advance your date of report, just keep it far enough in advance while you're drafting for the following 2 reasons. So if you're in IFRS, the new standards and interpretations note reads from this date. So if you have set the date of signature of audit report during your drafting to be too early, let's say a month after year end, and another standard becomes issued between the date of your financial statements and the date of sign-off, then you're not going to include the standards and interpretations right up to the date of signature. Also, the directors that are included in the financial statements listed as directors also looks to directors which had resigned before this date. So you might land up not including the correct directors, but we'll take a look at that in a moment to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to go straight down to the directors next. You can't complete the number of directors or these first white cells. You have to include their names. So go ahead with me and just, you can copy and paste. You will put the director's name in, their nationality. The nationality is not critical. I'm just going to put the first one in to save time. What is important is their date of appointment and resignation if they have. So our first director was appointed on the 1st of September. Again, there's a little calendar drop icon that you can use, or you can just type it in, the 1st of September 2020. So let's take a second to go and do that. And J. James resigned on the 1st of April 2025. And that is important for something I want to show you with that audit date. And our Vandamava has also resigned 24/11/13. Okay. At this point, I'm just going to expand my case view document because I want to show you a little trick here. So on the right-hand side of your directors, it shows that this director will show on the general information page, that's of your financial statements. It means those are the directors listed at the date of the sign-off of the financial statements. And they will also appear in the director's report, meaning they were a director during the year. So take a look at our James and Vandamava. Both of them only show on director's report. And that is because of it looks at the date of audit report. So if we want to go to our audit report. I'm scrolling up. Okay. Now here's a little trick for you. We're trying to see our audit report, but now our bottom part is blocked. What you can do when you're in case view is if you click on view, you can actually split this screen. So you'll go and split horizontally. So the view tab, split horizontally, and just select a place where you'd like to break the screen or split the screen. And then you stand on the top part. Now we can clearly see our audit report sign-off date. Go to the bottom, and I can scroll down to see all my directors. Okay, so this is the functionality of all case view documents. So I thought it would be nice just to show you it here. So take a look. Both of our directors resigned before our audit sign-off date, although this is not the final signature date. This was just for drafting purposes. You're obviously going to put the correct date in later, but it's just to make sure that the correct names appear even during your drafting process. if, say, you had said, no, I'm just going to put this at March, whenever, then you could see that now, even though these directors have actually resigned and should not be included as current directors, they are currently showing on the list. So just pay attention to that audit date. Okay, and I'm going to unsplit my screen. So you just go back to unsplit horizontally on the View tab, click it, and then we're done with the directors. So in order for me to just split my screen again to show my Excel on the side, I'm going to hold down the Windows key, tab left, and just continue the last few things. So we're going to go to the auditors and incorporate now. Our auditors are this JKL accountants, so we can bring them in here, and we're going to look for the firm, the name of the firm, and you can just paste it in and it puts it on top. Member firm, if it's applicable. If not, just press your space bar and it will actually clear the data that's in there. You must clear this information, else it's going to pull through to the financials and it's going to print. Our lead partner was D-Sing, so we can copy and just paste him in as the engagement partner. They are Chartered Accountants South Africa, so you'll just put in whatever their designations are and your place of signature. And then all of this information will pull through to the sign-off in your financial statements. Our preparer details, so your Companies Act requires you to show your preparer of your financial statements. We've got M. Knight, it's not Michael Knight, or it can be, it depends on what you want him to be. Okay, so we're going to put him in here. His designation is he's a CASA. And if he's part of a firm, you can include that. Otherwise, just spacebar to delete the text, and also Johannesburg. And so it's as simple as that to complete your information store. Right, I'm going to close my information pack. We're finished with that. I don't need to save it and expand my information store. All right, at this point, we can return to caseware working papers. So I'm going to click on my caseware icon and I'm going to go into my file, and we are going to import our trial balance. So if you want to import a trial balance, I'm just going to show you, you would go to the engagement tab. You don't have to click with me yet. If you import, there are only two, and you click on import, there's only two that we look at in the e-learning, and I'm only looking at the one. So it's accounting software. So that's if you're going to import directly from your accounting software. Alternatively, if your client provides you with an Excel file, we can do an Excel file import. Now you have to prepare your Excel file in a certain way before you do that import. So what I want you to do now, please, is go and open up your trial balance, which would have been the other handout. It's Get Ahead 28-20 February trial balance. I just want to find out in case there's any questions. Anything I need to address now? Okay, I'll look at questions in a little bit. Let's just go through this process. Okay, so if you've opened up your Excel sheet, I'm on the first tab called Client TB1 column. So follow me here. When you do, in whatever version format your client gives you the trial balance, you might have lots of different fields or columns. It's fine. You can import with various columns because Caseware allows you to just ignore the, what can I say, the unnecessary columns. So, but what you have to have is an account number. If you do not have account number field, Caseware will not allow you to import a trial balance. As far as the account numbers are concerned, it's very important to make sure that you do not duplicate an account number. If you do, it will only bring in one of the accounts with the same number and the other account will be rejected, and you will land up with an unbalanced trial balance. So the first thing we're going to do here is you can have a look through. I don't know if your eyes are grand, but mine struggle, and you could have a massive trial balance. So a nice little trick in the Excel is if you, I just want to open my home tab, let's just pin that. if you stand on the account number column, a nice trick is to go to your conditional formatting on the home tab of Excel and highlight cell rules and go and choose the duplicate values rule. And you can make it whatever color you like. I'm just going to stick with the red and I'm going to click OK. So now you want to go through, and if you can just do that with me, go through your file and see there I've got a duplicate if you have any duplicates. And I'm scrolling through and there's just that one duplicate number. So you're going to get on the phone to the client and you're going to find out what happened, and they're going to be terribly sorry they made a little mistake in the export. It must have been an accidental finger error. Just go, and they said the second account is actually supposed to be 01. So you can go ahead and make that change and or request a new trial balance, however you're going to work it out. And now we have satisfaction that our account numbers are not duplicated. The next important field is obviously account names or account description. You can import without it, but it's going to be mighty difficult to follow numbers unless you've just really got a brilliant mind that can memorize what the account numbers and names work together. Then, of course, you've got your input fields, your current year trial balances, and your comparatives. You might receive these in any number of ways. For my client, I have received my 2025 trial balance is my debits and credits are in the same column. So if I revert to the bottom of my sheet, I've already done it for you. You need to make sure that this is in balance. Obviously, if it doesn't balance in Excel, it's not going to balance overall. So all of my columns balance to 0. So we're happy with that. For the first year that you are doing financial statements in Caseware, you are going to have to import the current year and the prior year. The second comparative year is not critical, but it's going to make your life easier because then it's going to be able to calculate opening balances for you. So I would advise, if you can get your hands on at least the second comparative for first-time imports. When you import from, say, 2026 onwards, it won't be necessary to import your comparatives because this data will just roll forward into next year's file. Okay, but for your first file, you need it all. And now I want to just point out another trick when you're busy dealing with your Excel spreadsheet is take a look for me on your side. It should be the same, but it might be a little bit different. Take a look at your numbers. So on my screen, can you see that my thousands are separated by a space and my rands and cents or my decimals are separated by a comma? Another Excel spreadsheet or on your machine, it could look different. For example, I'll just type it here on the side. It could look that, I'm just going to change the number. You could have a comma separating thousands and a point separating zeros. That could be what your Excel spreadsheet looks like, right? It's important to pay attention to this, and I'll explain why. Because Caseware has got a default to look at your regional settings, at the way that your computer reads financial data. And if it differs from the actual Excel spreadsheet, you could have a problem on your import. So I'm going to show you just what I mean with the regional settings. If you don't follow me here, don't worry about that. Because there is a very easy override. But I'm just going to quickly go to my regional settings. I'm going to go into my settings. And now watch me not be able to find it. Okay. Into my settings, into regional settings. And I'm going to go to additional date, time, and regional. And of course, it's going to open on my other screen. And then I want to change. I'm just going into then the region settings, additional. So I say I'm going quite fast here because I just want to show you the point. You don't have to worry about getting it. Currency. And in mine, I can see my digit grouping symbol. This means my thousand separator is a space on my actual computer, and my decimal is a comma. So I'm quite happy that it's the same as my Excel. The point is, I just want you to pay attention to, is it the same as your Excel sheet or is it different? That's all you have to know. And if your answer is, I don't know, I couldn't follow you, then that is also fine. Just remember that comment that you didn't follow and you don't know if it's different. Okay, so the 3 points that I want to just to remind you there is either yes, it's the same, my regional settings are the same as my Excel sheet, or no, they're not the same, or I don't know. Okay, keep one of those answers in the back of your head. Our Excel file is ready for import. Please click save, because if you do not save the change, it doesn't import with the change. I discovered that the hard way. Right, let us now go back, click on your Caseware icon, enter into your file, and now you're going to go ahead with me to, on the engagement tab, import and Excel file. You're going to open up an Excel file import wizard, which is quite easy to follow through. Just go through it systematically. And the first thing you're going to do is, what are you importing? There's a little drop down. It's a chart of accounts and general ledger balances, right? We're not importing an entire general ledger. We're just importing the balances. So we're going to select chart of accounts. Where are you going to import it? So you're going to set this to, you're just going to go then and browse for that trial balance. What I did not mention is important to save the trial balance to your local machine. If you have it saved, for example, on your OneDrive, you could get a file server error, which just messes up the process and you have to basically start again. So make sure that you have saved it to your machine. And I'm just going through the process of getting mine, and it's my get ahead trial balance, and I click that. Then it says select a worksheet. So what that means is, if you're in the trial balance, the worksheet is which one of your tabs are you importing. I'm importing tab number 1. So 1 is selected. Make sure that your period date sequence for importing is set to monthly. Remember, in engagement property, we set it at monthly, and even here on the bottom, you can see that it's monthly, so this must be monthly. Select next. And all that the monthly is going to do is make sure that it gives you 12 periods to which you can import your trial balance. Right, then our next screen tells us which rows are not accounts and should be excluded. So we want to make sure that only the rows with account numbers pull into our import. So the ticks mean exclude. So you can either do it manually, or you can use the little arrows on top at exclude first. It'll just, you can say the first 5. Scroll down to the bottom and just make sure, are there any rows that don't have account numbers? Yes, my last one doesn't. I could have also used the exclude row, last row arrows. Okay, when we're happy that we've excluded the correct rows, we're going to click next. And now we're going to look at the field details, or the columns to import. This is basically going to tell Caseware which columns we want. Do you remember I said to you, if your Excel file has got a lot of extra columns with extra data that you don't want, you don't have to delete them in your Excel, you can just ignore them here. So the blue column is the one we're currently looking at, and we're going to label it now because we want to tell Caseware what that column belongs to. So click on the ignore, and you're going to find these are account numbers. So you're going to look for where you think account numbers are, and it's under account details, account number, and click. And now account number has been used up. And we're going to go through the rest of the spreadsheet. So now we're at the next column, which was account description. Click ignore again, account details, and now you should see the account number is grayed out. It's because it's already used. Caseware won't allow you to use it again. So let's go. I want account description, and oops, I've now accidentally gone and given it the wrong label. I want to go and change it, so I'm going to click on it again, account details, and now I see I want to choose account description, but it won't allow me. This is because it's already been labeled. So what you have to do is reset it to ignore. You can either re-click split up account, or you can just re-click ignore. So I'm going to re-click split up account, returns to ignore, and now I'm going to go account details, account description. And now that is correctly labeled. Then we get to our values in my spreadsheet. Like I say, if there were a few other columns here, I would just leave them at ignore and just go to the next one. We got to make sure that we label our periods correctly. So in my spreadsheet, my first column was 2025, so it's my current year. So I'm going to go, this is a balance column, so I'm going to go balances. Current year, we've made sure it is current year. And now what you're going to want to do is you want to import it to period 12. And you're going to click period 12. And it is a debit and credit field, so make sure that is ticked. And make sure that your total is 0. This then tells you that your import has correctly brought in all the accounts. Just want to show you, you're bringing it into period 12. Remember, I told you to make sure in your engagement properties or on this tab that you've selected the final month, this is the period that it's going to point to. So that's what I'm saying. So you're allocating to period 12, and this is why you set to period 12, because that is what Caseway looks at. Our next column was our prior year, so balance, prior year 1, period 12. And the next field was our second comparative, period 12. Like I said, when you in the following year, when you roll this file forward, you'll only have to bring in the current year, because all of this data will retain and will just move in up into the next year. You can say next. At this point, you need to develop a habit, please, to click this middle block, clear balances of periods being imported. The reason for this is that it's very unlikely that you will import a trial balance and never have to re-import it. Your client could make changes, they could add accounts, they could put journals through, you could make a mistake on the import. So you will very often have to do a re-import. What this balance does is, if this is not checked, if you re-import a new trial balance on top of the one that you've imported, so let's say you get a fresh trial balance and you want to re-import it to period 12, if one of the account balances on the new trial balance is 0, but it had a value in the old trial balance, Caseway does not override the old amount, which means that that account has been cleared to 0, but it's going to retain the old number. So you have to do the clear balances of periods being imported. So all that would happen is that when you re-import your trial balance using exactly the same process I just did, and before it brings the trial balance in, it will see, okay, you're importing period 12 for the current year, and it will set everything to 0, and then it will bring the new balances in. Okay, so that's the reason for that button. Now I'm going to get to regional settings. Remember, I took you through that whole story at the trial balance, checking if your regional settings were the same as the settings on the Excel sheet. And I said there's 3 answers. Either my regional settings are the same as my Excel, or my regional settings are different as my Excel, or I don't know. So it defaults to use the currency format in regional settings. If your answer was yes, it's the same, remember mine was the same, then you will keep this checked. But if it was different, you will uncheck it, and I'll tell you why. If I go back to my sheet, I deleted that. Let's say it was my numbers presented as 1, 2, 3, and a comma. Let's say this is how my Excel spreadsheet did look. In other words, let's say all of these numbers actually had this format. My computer settings, my regional settings, have been told that a comma means a decimal. So what will happen is that if my Excel spreadsheet uses this format as the cell I'm standing on, the comma, it will read as a decimal. So it's going to see 123 Rand instead of 123,000. So there, if that's the case, your regional settings are different to your spreadsheet. Or if you say, I actually don't know if they are different, then you uncheck this box. And now you're going to insert what the spreadsheet does. So decimal symbol in your Excel file. So you don't have to worry too much about your regional settings. My decimal symbol is a comma. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say my decimal is a comma, and I'm going to put in a comma. My grouping symbol is a space. In other words, how are my thousands separated? They're separated by spaces. So you just stand in digit group symbol and you put a space. So if you're ever unsure, then just come here to the regional settings, click the box off and put in the specific spreadsheet you're dealing with, and then click next. You should then get a report, an account summary of all the accounts you're importing. You can click next again, and then you can finally do your import. I'm not going to talk about the save layout. And I see I just need to hurry up a little bit, otherwise we're not going to get through everything. And press OK. Then you would just get a little summary telling you that you've imported the various balances. Click OK, and it should bring in your trial balance. Right. You can then go and click on the working trial balance on the menu toolbar. And it opens a new tab because it is a caseware file. It opens a little tab next to your document manager, so you can easily jump between the two. And on the bottom of your status bar, you can see, remember I told you earlier that this little number that I'm circling is your net income or loss. When you first import your trial balance, this number should be 0 because, or let me say that differently. If you import a trial balance that has not been mapped at all, and here you see map number, it's not mapped, Caseware assumes all of the accounts or income statement accounts. And so obviously if your trial balance is all income statement, your net profit will be 0. So this is just your first step. What we're going to do in a later on step is we're going to map our accounts. All that means is we're going to assign each of our general ledger accounts to where they belong in the financial statement. So are they assets, liabilities, or the income expenses? So that is what we mean by mapping, because now obviously we've got a trial balance, but we don't know where it belongs in the financial statements. The mapping process also groups your accounts into lead sheets, which is your groupings of accounts which you're going to audit together. Okay, so at this point, we don't have any accounts mapped, and you would also check for yourself at the bottom column, are all your balances 0? Because that means that your trial balance balances. Just a little bit about the trial balance here. You can change, if you stand on the headings, you can just click on it and it will just change the order of presentation. This was from highest to lowest numbers. In the name category, I can click it and it will alphabetically sort for us, for example. But again, this is all covered in the Caseware Working Papers Level 1 videos on the e-learning. There's a lot of detail on the trial balance. What I want to show you here is, remember we imported to period 12. So opening balance is 0 because we didn't import to opening balance. If you look at the transactions, this is going to be the accumulation of period 1 to period 12. So if I double click there, it opens up another tab next to working trial balance, and it gives me all the months of my year. So as expected, there's nothing in any of the months except for period 12, which is where I imported to. Okay, so I'm going to close that, just go to my working trial balance. I just want to show you what happens if I make a little mistake and I go and I change the month on the menu toolbar. Let's just say I change it to March. Do you notice everything disappears? So keep an eye out for that. If you panic and you say, where's my data? You might have moved off of your 12 period. So you just go and point Caseware back to the 12th month. All right. At this point, I wonder if there's, no, I think I'm going to continue for a bit and then I'll give you a short break. I can't see you, so I don't know if you are exhilarated with excitement or if it's been too much. I want to just, for the next section, I just want you to watch, please. So you're not going to do the work with me. I want to just show you another way of importing. So I'm going to close or just minimize this screen. And I have created another Caseware file. I just want to show you that you can open more than one instance of working papers. I've already got one open, but I just want to show you that you can actually go into multiple files at the same time, which is again why it's so important to make sure that you name your files correctly so that while you're in the files, you don't accidentally, for example, import a trial balance to another file that's open by mistake. So I've already created, so you won't do this, you're just going to follow. I've created a get ahead 2-column file, which I'm just going to open. And my username here again is SUP. Incidentally, if you want to just easily move between username and password, just click on tab. So if I'm in the Excel trial balance, on the second tab, there, and you can do this one later on when you're by yourself. I was going to say at home, but some of you might be at home. So what I've got here is a 2-column trial balance that my client has given me. So my debits and my credits are in separate columns. In this case, my credits are negative numbers. The client could have given them to you with positive numbers if your credit column is separate. So again, I want to prepare my trial balance. I've obviously then added up my debits and my credits, and I've made sure that they add up to 0. So I am happy with that. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. So I'm going to go now into my correct file, and to make sure that I'm not accidentally inserting it to the file we're working on together, there I can see my file name and my company. I'm in the correct place. So now I want to import financial statements with the debit and credit separate. So just for an import again, I'm going to go engagement. I'm going to go a bit faster. Import Excel file. It's a chart of accounts and general ledger balances. It's the same file, but I'll just browse to it again. And this time, my worksheet was worksheet 2. Do you agree? So I'm going to select worksheet number 2. It's set to monthly, and I'm going to go next. And I'm just going to click on the accounts, the lines that are not accounts that I want to exclude. And here, there's an extra row, so I must just make sure to exclude it as well. And I'm just going to rename my account. So this was my account number, my account description. And now remember, on my Excel spreadsheet, my first column was my debit. I'll just scroll to the top. It's my debits. So I'll go click on the column balances, current year balance, and it's period 12. Now I'm going to come to this point, and it shows me that it's out of balance, okay, which makes sense because these are just my debits. If I leave it on debit and credit field and I try to allocate the credit column and I go balances, current year, and I go to period 12, you see it's grayed out. It would not be correct to go and allocate it to period 11. Please don't do that. You must go back to where you allocated the debits and click debit field. So that Caseware knows to allow you access to period 12 again. Now you can go to your credit balance, current year, period 12. And now you're going to tell it this is the credit field. Okay, now something's happened here. My total needs to be 0, but it's not. It's a very big number, and I want to panic. Don't panic. Take a look at other field information. I can see that this little box is checked, which says positive imports as credit. And I go, oh, no, that's the problem. Mine are not positive in the credit field. They are, in fact, negative. So I'll just uncheck that. Yes. And lo and behold, my total is 0. I'm happy. Okay, then I'm going to import my comparatives, and these are just prior year 12 and prior year 2. You can click next. I'm going to remember, I'm getting the habit of clicking clear balances of period being imported. My regional settings are the same as my Excel file, so I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to click next. And next, and import. Click OK, and my net profit should be 0 if everything worked correctly, because remember, nothing is mapped yet. So I expect a 0 net profit at this stage because my trial balance is going to think that everything is an income statement balance until I map it. Oh dear. I've got a problem because it's not 0. Okay, so let's go see. So we know my trial balance balances, right? We all saw that it balanced. Whatever could I have done wrong? So I'm going to go into my trial balance, and I'm not going to panic. I'm going to just have a look. Yes, indeed, my balancing figure is out and I have made a mistake. So now what you're going to do, now you're going to think to yourself, what could have been wrong? My trial balance balances. I wonder if anybody, quickly, I'm going to literally give you 1 minute. I think the chat has been deactivated. Is the chat active? Okay, throw it in the question bar. If you can figure out quickly what I might have done wrong. I'm just going to give you 1 minute and we'll see if anybody gets the right answer. Do we have a right answer? Okay, so I've got an answer as the mapping of the TB, so it won't be at this point. Mapping is later. So your trial balance must be in balance even if you haven't mapped it yet. Okay, yes, I've got a few right answers there. Well done. Duplicate accounts. So that's one of the first things you're going to do. So always go back to your Excel first. I'm going to my Excel. One of the obvious checks is, does it balance? It does balance, that's fine. Should I have checked duplicate balances? So let's go and quickly do our duplicate balance check. Duplicate values. I'm going with light red. You can pick whatever. Can you believe it? It was the same trial balance. How could I have been so silly? So let me change that and fix that here. Like I said, if you've made a change, just save the change. And again, please make sure your trial balance is saved onto your computer. Okay, let's go try it again. So now I want to run through a re-import with you because I've got to just get into the correct file. I'm going to now have to override this that I have imported, and I need to get rid of the 0 balance. So to re-import, I'm just going to do the process again. So I'm going to go import, and you can do it here from the working trial balance view. It's fine. Excel file. My document, just make sure you're still on the right document. Careful, it defaults back to 1. It was document 2. It's on monthly. Let's go next. Exclude the rows. Click next. Quickly assign my fields, so my account number, my account description, and then this was my debit, credit, and prior year, right? It's the same file, so I'm just going to quickly go my account balance, current year, and I'm just going to drop it in there. And it is my debit field, and I'm going to go to my prior year, my next column, my balance, also current year. I'm just going to drop it in there, and it balances. It worries me a bit that it balances. Oh, you see what's happened here now. So you've got to pay attention. I must select that it's the credit field, and I must uncheck the positive import. Right, so just make sure that here I've chosen debit field, credit field, and I hope you are following me nicely. Then my prior year, I'm just going to re-import it as well because that same error the duplicate account would have pulled through to prior year. So I'm going to go ahead and re-import prior year and prior year. Okay, and if you think I've done something wrong, just don't doubt yourself, please. Clear balances of periods being imported. So I'm going to click that because yes, I'm doing a re-import and I want my period that I'm importing to be overridden. My regional settings I can keep because it's the same as my computer. And I'm going to click next. Yes, there's my new account. I'm happy with the changed one, and I'm going to import or rather that was the account that changed. And now I should see a zero balance. Okay. Are you ready for the magic? Oh no! What have I done? It's still unbalanced. And if I look here in my transactions, it's still, now I'm floored. So let me go see. My account that I changed was 3240. I'm going to just sort by account number. I think it was 3240. No, it was these marketing main accounts. Yes, sorry, it was 3340. The accounts have changed, whatever is going on. Okay, so now you're confused because the duplicate account has been sorted out. Then now you've got to investigate a bit further. So let's go into the transactions. I'm going to double click transactions. And just to show up my various periods. And okay, did anyone notice that when I did my re-import, I imported to period 11 and not to period 12? Yeah. So hopefully you noticed that, and I did do that on purpose. You got to re-import to the same period as you originally imported. But now if you've made a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Now we've got to fix it. So what is the scenario? Currently, we've got a period 11, which has got data in, which we've got to get rid of. You can't go in here and just click zeros and try to override the trial balance. In your actual period 12, where I'm at now, we've still got the mistake, right? Because we never did re-import into period 12. So now what we have to do is another re-import, because I want to show you a trick. What do you do if you've accidentally imported to the wrong period and you want to clear it out? Now you're going to go back to your Excel. And you're going to go into the sheet where you've made the mistake. You're going to insert a column. And I'm just going to call the zero balances. So what we're going to do is we're going to import all zeros for all of these accounts into period 11 to override it. You don't have to put the zeros, it brings it in. Click Save your worksheet, otherwise it doesn't take note of the changes. Back into your file. And I'm in the correct file, because that will be a real disaster if I go and I import this into the wrong file. Now we go ahead, engagement, import, Excel file. And I know I'm doing quite a lot of trial balance imports, but it's so easy to just click the wrong place and then what do? Chart of accounts, browse. By now we are on the correct one. Remember, point it to sheet 2, next. Clear out my columns. By now we know that it's 2 rows, sorry, not my columns, my rows. The last 2 rows will be ignored. Next. And now I must pay attention and not make a mistake again. Account details, account number. Account details, account description. Right, now this first column, just keep your wits about you. This is a balance column. This is where we want to fix up. We want to get rid of all these numbers in period 11. So we're going to call it balances, current year, period 11. Okay, and you can leave it as a debit and credit field. Now we're going to correctly bring in period 12. Balance, current year, it's period 12, because I made a mistake in my first re-import. It's a debit. Now go to the next column, which was my credits. Account balance, current year, period 12. Remember to tell it that it's the credit field, and remember to tell it that it's not positive numbers, it's negative numbers. Everything's happy here. For good measure, let's just bring in our prior year. Although the prior year columns should be fine. On the second import, they would have come in correctly. Next. Okay, clear balances of periods being imported, because this is very important now because I'm bringing all zeros into period 11. And remember I said that if you write a 0 over a field that's already got a number, it will not override the old number. So you have to clear the balances. Regional settings are fine. Let's go next. And this time I really need it to work. Now we're going to hope and pray that this is in fact going to be 0. Ready? Okay. Holding my breath. Sure. Okay. So the amount on the status bar, the net profit is 0. Remember, it's only 0 because I've not mapped anything yet, and so it assumes everything is income statement. My period, I'm currently in the current year period balances, so we're split 12 periods up. 11 cleared out to 0 and 12 is correct. So I can close this tab. How did I access that tab again? I stood on transactions and I double-clicked transactions, and it gave me all 12 periods. I'm going to close it. And my working trial balance, I'm happy. It balances out to 0, and I have correctly imported my trial balance into this file. So I'm going to go ahead and close that file so I don't get confused. And I think at this point, we can take a 5-minute break. Then we'll have about 40-50 minutes left. So take please 5 minutes, and then we will just to get a coffee if you need to, or a comfort break, and then I will see you again after the break. Hello everybody, welcome back. Doesn't that coffee cup image just make you wish that that literally was your life right now? All right, we're going to continue on with our exercise in our work in our file that we're doing together. I just want to mention, I see there were a few comments that came up asking why I posted to period 11 or allocated to period 11 in the previous example before the break. I'm sure that you were all aware, but in case not, I did that by mistake on purpose. I was supposed to post to period 12, so it was good that you noticed that I made the mistake. It's, I think, a possibly common mistake, so I did it on purpose to show you how to fix the scenario if that should happen to you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is if you go into your, I just want to get the correct file. Let's close that. And I hope I have now not gone and closed. So I'm in my correct file, and you can just check by looking at your file name at the bottom, and Get Ahead Pty Limited, I'm in the correct place. So you should be here with me right now in your working trial balance. Remember how to access it. Let's just go back. If you're in Document Manager, just click the little trial balance and it should open up. Now we need, the next step is we're happy our trial balance is correct. It balances to 0, everything is good. Now we have to map it, because at this point in time, Caseware has no idea where these account balances belong. So what you will do, just don't go there with me. You can just look. I'm just going to show you something quickly. If you click Account, Assign Mappings, the Assign Mapping screen opens, and what happens is that I'm not sure what that is doing there. On the left-hand side of the screen are all your account balances. And sorry, I just want to see if I can get rid of this Caseware support. Let's see what happens if I'm just going to pause for a moment. So I just want to see if oh, there we go, it's gone. Okay, so I have to go back into that, sorry, Account, Assign Mappings. On the left-hand side is all my trial balance accounts which are not mapped. So at this point, it's my entire trial balance. So you can imagine, now you've got to allocate all of these to the right-hand side, which is just, you're going to label it into balance sheets, income statements, just to where it belongs. Okay, so it can be quite a long process. We are going to do this together, but like I said, don't go here yet. What we found out is that we were in contact with the client, and they said to us that they've obviously previously somebody else did this work, and they've contacted the previous accountants, and they've actually given them a Excel sheet where they gave them the mapping numbers, or most of the mapping numbers, from the previous year's auditors. So they also used Caseware previously, and they've given them some of the mappings. That's the best they would give us from the file. So he's actually given you a new trial balance in tab 3, Client Trial Balance Mapped. It's the same trial balance. He has corrected the duplicate account number before he sent it to you. So, and if you don't trust me, we can quickly go and just, because you should never trust, right? Your auditors, professional skepticism, duplicate values. Let's go and check. There's no reds, so we've got no duplicate values. Our trial balance balances, so we're happy. So it's exactly the same trial balance. It's just that he's added this field, which has already got some of the caseware numbers in it. So the way that they did it, if I just show you quickly, is they went into the previous accountants. Remember, we don't have their file. That's why we're starting again. If you're in the trial balance and you ever want to do this, you can just stand anywhere in your working trial balance. The previous accountants, they would have had the mapping numbers down here. And you just select Control All. And then you select, sorry, not Control All, Control A at the same time. And then you select Control C for copy. Then you're just going to go into a blank Excel worksheet, Control V, and it's going to paste your accounts down, your full trial balance, including the mapping numbers. And then you can just use, what he would have done is he would have just used a VLOOKUP function to pull these mapping numbers into the account numbers. Okay, so that being said, I would like you with me to now the last re-import. I want you now to re-import this trial balance. Please be careful, it's tab 3, into your own file. So you can go into your file. So you're going to click on the caseware icon into your file. You can keep the trial balance open, it's fine. You're going to click on engagement, on import. So you're going to do this one with me, please. Excel file, and it's the chart of accounts. Make sure you've browsed to the correct document, the trial balance. It was worksheet 3, monthly, and you're going to click next. And remember, we are now in the version you imported, so our debits and credits are in a single column. Okay, exclude the top. This file only has, remember, one line at the bottom that wasn't an account. It was a bit different than the version I demonstrated. Our account number, so we're going to click account details, account number. You should be quite whiz by now at this. Account details, account description. We're going to re-import. I would just re-import the balances for safety's sake anyway, even though there was no changes to the balances. And you never know if your client maybe did a journal or something. So let's just re-import the balances. Current year, period 12, and our debit and credit were in the same field. This was our prior year. And please be careful. Don't always just assume current year, prior. Look at your Excel sheet, because your client might give you the prior, and then the prior, and then the third column might be current. Or they might give you an opening balance transactions and then only the final column. So just make sure that you are allocating the correct column to the current year balances. Okay, and then this is my prior year to period 12. So if I made everything period 12, now this is the new one. Now we've got this new column that's coming with us. These are our mapping numbers. So where to find this, you're going to click the column and you're going to go to grouping, because where are they grouped? And you're going to go all the way to the left to mapping number. And your grouping, your mapping numbers are these very long number fields with all the dots in between. Okay, and we have nothing else. We are going on. Again, clear balances of prior periods being imported. Always do that for safety. I can click regional settings because it's the same as my Excel sheet. And I'm going to click next and import. Okay, and just give it a moment to either sigh relief or cry, depending on the outcome. It's still busy thinking. Okay, so I was about, did any of you want to get a fright when we saw this 134 million on the status bar? So don't get a fright, because now we expect a net profit, right? Because now what have we done? we've started allocating, we've started mapping. So do you notice here under type of our accounts have changed to balance sheet? So we actually do want to see a profit. Where we would have got a fright is here on this line if our balances were not zero. So as long as they're balanced to zero, we know that our import works, our re-import works, and we've got so much less work to do because a lot of our accounts are mapped. So if we go through it, you can see there's gaps, so we're going to have to do a bit of work. And hopefully they did the work correctly. So if you're going to get the mapping from somebody else, from an external source, you're going to have to take the time to work through it and make sure that it's correct. Okay, you can't just blindly take it and run ahead. You're going to have to do that little bit of due diligence. But for our purposes, for today's exercise, we assume we're happy. So if you've completed that step, I'm going to go ahead because we've got only 40 minutes left and I am quite long-winded. Click on account now on the tabs on the ribbon. You're going to go to assign mappings. Okay, so you remember that. Engagement is where you import your trial balance. Account, assign mappings, is where you're going to map them. So there was a question about seeing our columns here. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Do you notice that my accounts, which still have to be assigned, are much shorter? That's because once an account has been assigned to the other side, it moves over. So our objective is to get this clean. Just a few comments here. We see our account number, we see our account description, and we've got our current and prior year balance. If you stand on this half of the screen and you right click, you're going to see a list of other else you can show. So if I want to see the prior year 2 balance, I'm going to click show prior year 2 balance, and it's going to pop that up for me. So if I right click and I hide it again, it goes away. So it's a matter of preference. You can sort this, you can sort it by account number if you wish. You can sort by name and it's going to give you alphabetical names. You can even sort by balances. Okay, so it'll give you highest to lowest in terms of balances. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the mapping side of the screen looks like. So we've got our balance sheet and income statement split. So on your balance sheet, you're going to see some assets split by non-current, current. Don't worry about the technical. In your non-current, now you're going to list all the line items. These are all the line items you expect to see on your balance sheet. I'm just using that word because I'm old school. So statement of financial position doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as balance sheet, but I trust that you all with me. So if I start, let's start here at the first one. You can see that it's gray. And at the bottom of the screen, there's this little box called map. If it's grayed out, it means that what I'm standing on in the mapping screen, I'm not allowed to map to it. In other words, it's unassignable. So I couldn't, if I wanted to, I could not put anything on this line. And then if you click it open, there's a little plus there, it gives you lower levels. So you're going to keep going down to the lowest level, and it's only at the lowest level that you can map. So you would, now I'm just showing you how the process works. You would click down until you found what you're looking for. So obviously, please don't look in property, plant and equipment if you're trying to map sales. You're going to have to go to the right area. But if I were to drill down and I keep drilling down, I notice that suddenly when I do get to the lowest level, I have to be standing on an account on the left to just show you what happens with the mapping button. If the button goes blue, then it's assignable. So I'm just going to stand up a level to just show you. So I've highlighted my account on the left. I know it's not the correct one. It's just to illustrate a point. If I go up a level to say land, it's not assignable because there's still a lower level. So I'm going to go down a level, and at this point I can assign. On the lower level, if you still see an expand, all it means is if you click on the expand, now you're not seeing a level of assignment because you notice here there's a mapping number. Do you recognize it a little bit from your Excel sheet? Yeah, from the Excel sheet and from the trial balance. This is now the actual account that has been mapped to this location. Okay, so we'll look at that in a bit. So you can see land and buildings has already been allocated to this account. So always remember, because there's lots of mapping numbers, always collapse as you move on. So there's all your balance, your non-current assets. You've got a whole list of current assets. your equity and liabilities are grouped together. If I go into equity, I want to show you something here. So now we've got share capital, members contribution, owners capital, trust capital, body corporates. And what you're seeing is the mapping for all entity types that are provided for under the SME template. If you map to the wrong place, it's not going to show through on the financial statement. So right, we're a company. So if you map to trust capital, it's not going to pull through to your financial statements, because it shouldn't, because you're a company. So what you must do if you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake and accidentally map to trust capital, just on the side, if you do accidentally map to a wrong entity type, when we go into the financial statements, there will be a little red triangle and it will tell you clearly you've mapped to the wrong entity. So don't panic. You would just you can actually click on that warning and it will take you to the place where you've mapped wrong. That is in the financial statements e-learning. So I'm referring quite a lot to that. Those modules are very, very important. Okay, so what you can do if you want to hide these is, you see there's a little select tab option. So you're going to open that and you're going to select just your entity type. So I like to just select all the company to be safe. Click on the side and it's just going to refresh. So it'll just close this again to refresh. And it's running through the database to make sure that only the items which a company should map to are included. But it just takes a moment because it is quite a lot of mapping numbers. Well, yeah, there we go. Incidentally, I just want to show that if you're on the mapping side, you can also right-click, show and hide prior balances. Okay. Right, so let's open balance sheets again. We're on equity and liabilities. Equity, now only the company-related items are available. And then, of course, you've got your non-current liabilities, current liabilities, your income statement. You've got income, your normal revenue, sale of goods, rendering services, so on. Your investment income, like interest and dividends, any other kind of income that you make that's not revenue. You've got expenses, starting with cost of sales, or your other expenses, so general, which is literally all your various expense types. You've got your employee costs, depreciation, amortization, impairments, finance costs. And if you need to map something that should be separately disclosed on the income statement, you would map it to material non-operating items. Okay, then you've got another category, still income statement, called other, where you've got your profits or losses on disposals, foreign exchange, fair value adjustments, and so on. There's taxation here. So you would have to familiarize yourself with the layout of the mapping screen. So originally your process would work. Now you're going to have to go on a process of taking everything here and putting it in the right place. So you can do this with me. So there's various ways. So we're going to start off with sales merchandise. So you're going to click the item you want to map, and you can go and you can literally go try find it. I know it's income, it's revenue, sale of goods, and then you can go and pop it in. So there's various different sale of goods options here. It just depends if you want them to show separately in the detail on the financial statements. So I might decide I want to map it here. This is one way. I'm going to show you a different way of searching for something else. It's not assignable yet, so I'm going to assign it to sale of goods type 2. And I'll just want to show you in type 1 has got all our cars, seems like, and parts, and we're just deciding for ourselves that we actually want to use type 2 for this merchandise, which is whatever else we're selling. So I've selected both the account number and the mapping number. So it's the long number, but it's black as opposed to gray. And then you can click the map button at the bottom. And then you will see it's now, if you click the expand, now it's sitting here. To unmap, if you made a mistake, you can click on it and click unmap. Okay, let's map it again. Let's just go find it. I see it's moved. There it is, sales merchandise. I can also stand on both and then just click my spacebar. As well. Okay. Incidentally, don't click enter when you're in here. If you press enter, it's going to take you out of the assign mapping screen. And also you can just save by clicking apply. Okay. Right. It's could take you quite some time to go individually and search manually to try and find an item. So let us play around with a bit of the search functionality here. So what you can see is there's a few items. Can you see there's a few rental equipments or rental options here? It would be not, it's likely that they're going to go to the same place. Would you agree? I mean, certainly all the rental equipment. So one of the tricks is, this is a small TB. Imagine if it's a very long one. How are you going to save time? You want to be efficient in this process, right? So you can figure out for yourself, well, can I perhaps select these few together? So yes, you can. If you stand on the top number and you click, hold down Control and Shift together, and then you go to the bottom number in a continuous list and you click it, then it actually gives you all of those items together and you can map them together. But now this isn't going to help me because I've got some there, they're not a continuous list. Now I know you're going to tell me just click on name and you can sort it by name. You're right, but I want to show you if it's a massive thing, or if they didn't all start with rental equipment, what if it was the other way around? It might have been Canon rental equipment, Nasher rental equipment, then my sort by name wouldn't work. So I can see, and once I've learned this client, I can see, okay, it seems like 3520 is rental equipment. So let's go search number in the search bar on top, and I'm going with that. And this is pretty cool. It's actually filtered out everything else. So this is now nice. I can get a whole chunk together. So I'm going to click the top one. I'm going to click, hold Control Shift, and I'm going to click the bottom, and I know I've made my selection. But now I've got to go and try and find it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the search a little bit. So I'm going to search name. I'm going to try rent, but you've just got to be careful here. You can't just blindly take what pops up, but just try something like rent. And now it's going to filter out everything where it found the word rent. So current is part of word. So I know it's not assets, so I'm going to close that. I know it's not equity and liabilities, and I know it's not income. So I'm closing all of that. And I know it's not cost of sales in my specific entity. So I'm just winding down the field a little bit. We are in IFRS for SME. So these are operating rental expenses. Remember, in IFRS, it would be your right of use asset, but we are happy that these are operating leases. But now I want to caution you, because you're probably going to get excited and go, oh yeah, select there and throw it in there. You know, lease rentals on operating lease one. What I think that you should get into a habit of doing is, if you've applied your search function, you're going to have to just drill a little bit deeper, because do you notice a level up? So I see operating lease 1, 2, and other. If I level up 1, I can see that the lower ones are 07, 8, 9. So it looks like there's something that the filters cut out. But I'm very sure that it's definitely lease rentals on operating lease. This level is definitely right. But it seems like some of my lower levels might be excluded. So now you're going to follow this trick. It's going to take practice. You're going to play around with it. You're going to stand on the level that you know is definitely going to be right. You just don't know if your sub levels are all included. You're going to right click and you're going to click properties. Okay, so it was right click, properties. And now it automatically highlights the mapping number. So go and press Control C to copy that map number. Press OK to just close the property screen. Very importantly, clear the search for rent, because it's still only going to bring up rent. And now go and drop that mapping number into the mapping number box. All right, so this is numbers and this is names. So you're going to go stand here, Control V. So what's happening is, remember we said our previous search told us lease rentals on operating lease is the right higher up category. And so it's going to bring everything, provided the search name has been cleared, it will bring everything under lease rentals on operating lease. And now we can see, oh goodness gracious, in our previous search, it only brought up these operating lease 1, 2, and other. Why? Because it only saw rentals in those names. But we don't see rentals in the other names. So your search is just going to be, you'll learn it. But now you can see, okay, no, it's not premises, it's copiers, it's photo equipment. So equipment is the right place. So now I'm going to click on equipment. I see my mapping is activated. All of my accounts are highlighted, and I click map. and all of them are in there. Okay, once you've done a bit of a search, make sure to clear out all your searches on both sides, because it looks like we finished mapping, right? But we haven't. We've got 3, 5, 20 still in that search bar. So we've used this process. We've dealt with quite a chunk of the mapping. We've got some more rentals here, so let's try a different approach. Let's do search by name, rental of warehouse and rental of house, and we can select both of these. And we now remember from now we're starting to get a bit of experience. We know that there was a rental of premises. We can go search for it manually. That'll be expenses, general, and you try to find it. Or you can, hopefully you've still got the let's see if the number is still set in our clip. Yeah, so I've still got it, the number saved. So I just control V'd from our previous search, and it brings up the lease rentals again. And it's a premises, and I'm going to map. For if you're not following me or you're a bit worried, I'm just going to show you the path I could have taken. Is I could have gone income statement, expenses. It's a general expense because it doesn't fall under the rest. And now I'm just going to go and look for operating lease expenses. So something that looks like that. Okay, lease rentals on operating lease. That looks like it's probably it. And premises, and there they're allocated. What should have happened is that it should have added into the top level, in other words, the mapping number that it's been allocated to. If it doesn't, just periodically remember to apply so that it just applies it and saves it. And there you can see if I collapse premises, you can see that it is in fact mapped to premises. So if the whole search makes you a bit nervous, you can still just drill down individually. Okay. Let's carry on going through this. Allowance for uncollectible debt. I'm just going to take you through getting the rest of the mapping items. That's obviously a balance sheet account. Let's try search it. In mapping, I expect it to be, so on your mapping side, when you want to search name, you're going to play around with the items you expect to find on the balance sheet. So do you agree that the provision for doubtful debts or your credit loss allowance should be in trade and other receivables? So let's try and see what happens if I do a trade and other. Let's see what the search brings. And I know that it's going to be a current asset. So I can, as soon as it's finished its search, I'm just going to close income statement. It's also brought me trade and other payables because I didn't finish writing receivables. So I'm going to close that, right? And now I'm going to see, okay, I'm quite happy. Definitely trade and other receivables. If I wanted to, so I'm happy that it's going to be in this impairment section. If I was uncertain whether all of the possible accounts have come or mapping have come through, I could have then also just done the previous process, right? I could have stood on the higher level, right-click property, copy this mapping number, close that, cleared my search, put the copied mapping number in, and it would have brought my whole trade and other receivables up. And now I've got the full list that I can actually see, okay, where do I want to put that? So I've got the option to map to cost. It's not cost. Trade and other receivables impairment. It is an impairment, right? It's a provision for doubtful debts. There it is. The black line is the one I want to map to. I've already selected the account and I map it to this side. Happy. All right, and so you're going to follow this process through, and I think using the search can really save time. Amortization of trademark. Let's go and see what happens if we throw that in. So obviously amortization, I can already see that it's definitely the correct place. Is this going to be the expense side, or is this the accumulated amortization side? So this, you're going to have to know your accounts. So let's say our chart of account, the 4,000s or income statement. Also, it's a debit, so it's probably the expense, right? So be careful not to put it to the, to the accumulated amortization side. So we're going to close assets. That's not where I want to be. It's not cost of sales. And here I'm going to now, I can analyze in my expenses, depreciation, amortization, impairments. That sounds right. It is an expense. Let's see, okay, there I can see trademarks and patents. And again, what I can do is copy the properties from the intangible assets line and go through the whole process. But this is definitely correct. Intangibles, it's definitely trademarks and it's an amortization. So I'm going to stand on it, either press my space bar or I can just click map and off it goes. Happy with that, apply. And we're getting closer and I've got just a few minutes, so I'm going to just hurry up with this. Clear your searches, don't forget to do that. The next one is deferred tax, so let's go. Actually, I don't want to do this one yet. There's a reason, sorry. I'm just going to clear that search. Let's do the exchange gains and losses. So we can try something like perhaps foreign exchange is a likely one that I'm looking for. And it tells me here, my account tells me it's exchange gains and losses on cash. Okay, so foreign exchange is not working because I spelled it wrong. That's quite important. Cool. Now I'm going to again filter. This is an income statement thing, so I'm just going to ignore my balance sheet outright. Okay, so this filter hasn't shown us anything on income statement, so perhaps it's just Forex. So you'll play with it. If you don't find what you want in the filter, then you see, yeah, this is foreign loss investments other. So it's not really giving me the search that I want. What I'm going to do then in this case is I'm rather just going to do a drill down. In the other section of my income statement was my foreign exchange gains and losses. The search will work. I'm just putting in the wrong search items. So in profit or loss on exchange differences, it was cash value. It was on cash. So I'm going to allocate it to the cash. It is important that you map correctly. Let me just say this because it's going to throw your items into your financial statements on the line that you've allocated it to. It also impacts your cash flow statement and your notes. So it is important to map to the right place. Okay, fine. So that's now there. We're making progress. I'm just going to, now the holding company loan. This one's very important that I share this with you. Let's do a search on this. I feel confident that our search will work. So search name, holding company. Obviously, it might just be the name of the holding company and loan, but when I search here in this box, I'm searching for what is Caseware likely to have as a mapping name, something to do with holding company. So let's see what's here. All right, so it's again, now it's only giving me, yes, it's loans to group company, current assets, but I know that it's a non-current. So let's just go back and see if it gives us, do you see how you just play around with your search until it gives you what you're looking for? So I've got a holding company loan and I see that it's a credit balance. So that tells me that it's a liability. So I want to go to my liability and I know that it's non-current because the client has told me so. So I see, oh, here's loans from holding companies. This is where I want to be. So I'm going to click on it. And there's no expand, and it's also not allowing me to map. Now what? So if I look up a level, do you see that it says refer asset section? So this is an example of an account that could have a debit or a credit balance. We call them flip accounts. The flip accounts will sometimes point you to, like in this case, it says no matter what it is, go to the asset section. Okay, so, and then Caseware will allocate it correctly as an asset or liability. Your gains and losses, like the foreign exchange on the income statement, was similar, except you just had to map it straight to the income statement, and Caseware puts it to income or a gain or a loss in the income statement. For the assets, it tells you go to the, for the balance sheet, it tells you to go to the asset. So let's go up to non-current asset. We see our loans to from group companies, holding company loans, and then it gives us an impairment. So this is not an impairment, this is actually the holding company loan. So let's click in there. Again, it's not allocatable because it's not actually giving us the further list. So if you come to this point and you say to yourself, I know this is right, it's not telling me to go map somewhere else, then probably it's just got to do with my search, not giving me all the fields. So what I'll do is I know it's loans to from group companies, so I'm going to click on this. I'm going to select properties, and I'm just going to go and copy the mapping number at the higher up level. Say OK, clear my search, Control V, the mapping number into the mapping number field, And now it brings back everything that's in that mapping number range. You see, so I searched on the loans from holding companies, and beneath it were all the company IDs. Why did these not come up on my search? Because you can see the word holding company is not in these line items. So sometimes that's why I say just play around with it and use the mapping number of the higher level then to search for the rest. We're going to drop it to group company 1 in the holding companies, select it and click map. If I open there now, and I press apply, I just want to show you what happens. Yes, with so what's happening here is the account is mapped to this level, but do you see that it shows a 0 here? And this is how the flips work. It says it's not an asset because it's a credit balance. But if you now go, just clear your search so that you can see everything. Balance sheet, go to your liability, go to non-current liabilities, loans from group companies. If I now open it and I go to holding company loans, although I can't see the account here, can you see that the balance has in fact come through? So it has acknowledged that liability. Okay, I'm going to quickly map the last two or three. Marketing account main. Let's just search for that. I'm not going to explain it too much because I want to get to something. I can see my previous account was mapped here to advertising. It's going to go to the same place. I'm going to map it. You can follow or try to do it in your time. Actually, do try to keep up with me if you're still with me. Other payables. So let's go here to other payables. I just want to map these two accounts and quickly open the financial statements with you before we end. Okay, so current liabilities, other payables, I'm quite happy this is the place. Select your option and map it. And I've got an other receivables, I'm going to do the same. Just want to change my search. Okay. Current assets. It's just still thinking and jumping. Trade and other receivables. It's an other receivable. I'm happy with that. You could do the process again that I showed you if you're unhappy. And then, of course, deferred tax. I'm not going to do with the search. Deferred tax is a flip. So I had left it because I had wanted to show you the holding company loan first. So this deferred tax asset, if you go through the process, it will also send you to the asset side and you can just map it there. So everything has been mapped and hopefully you're with me up till now. If not, just follow and carry on and you're done. You can click OK to close this box and everything is mapped. And now you've got your final profits or loss figure because everything has been mapped. You can go back to Document Manager. You can close your trial balance if you want. Now we're going to open the financial statements and we're going to continue with this exercise next time. So if you haven't kept up with me, please do up to the end of this session. Catch up, even if you have to start with a new file. Financial statements, you're going to go into the financial statements folder, click financial statements. And it'll take a minute or two to open. While that's opening, I think there was a question or two that I had wanted to. Oh, okay. There was a question about renaming a file. I don't have a chance to get to it now. I'll try next time. But again, I point you to the working papers e-learning. There is a video there called Rename Files. So it'll take you through that. There was a question about the directors on the information store, but not in the financial statements. Remember then, just go back through the process. Your directors, you would have had to put in their date of appointment and resignation. And then remember, we had the date of the audit report. The financial statements look at the date of audit report and they look at the date of the director's resignation. So if the director resigned before the date of audit report, then your director will not appear on the financial statement. So just make sure that that audit report date obviously is set to the accurate date when you have it. But before you've actually done the sign off, just set it to a later date so that it includes your directors who should still be in office by sign-off. Okay, so once you've opened your financial statements, this screen pops up, and this is called the optimizer. And what this screen does is it only brings relevant content into your file. So it looks at your mapped accounts and it says, what do you need? Because otherwise the file becomes very big. So you've got accounting policies and notes. So on the left-hand side, it says all the accounting policies not in the file. So you can go through it, and if there's something here that you do want, like that it might have missed, perhaps leases, because you'll say, no, but I had an operating lease, I want that. It doesn't actually have a balance sheet. I'm not going to, yeah, this wouldn't have picked up because it had something to do with the actual account balance. So you could click on it and it would bring it across to the other side as well if you wanted. So black writing with the green tick means it's going to come into the file. But if you don't want it in the file, if you click it again, it's just going to take it out. On the notes, same story. These are the notes that will not come into your file. The green notes are the ones that Caseware will bring into the file. It's got, if it doesn't have a tick and it's green, it means it's already there. You can't get rid of it. If it's like, if we go through this list here, there are some automatic accounts that are always in. There's literally just two. Like other comprehensive income, it says it wants to take it out of the file because it's got a red cross next to it. If you decide you still want it, you can click and then it will come into the right-hand side and it will retain it. The fact that it's black means that it doesn't have a balance, so you don't have to include it in the file. You can't get rid of these green ones with the ticks. They have to come into your file. Okay, so I'm going to exclude operating or other comprehensive income, and you're literally just going to press next. Optimizer is quite good at making sure that everything that should come in does. You're going to press OK, and what it's going to do is it'll take about 5 minutes and all of your content for those notes will come into your file. Okay, so just do that part for us, and then when you're finished, you can save, and when it's finished running, save and close your file, and we'll see you next time. Please don't log off yet. I'm going to hand back to Ninka. She's just got a few further comments for you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Angela for that session. I do have a few questions about when is the next session. So the next session is the 3rd of April, and then we have one again on the 10th of April. So the 3rd is a few weeks away, so it will give you some time to go through the training if you haven't, to watch the recording, to go through this again if you need to, but please do join us on the 3rd. So what we will do on the 3rd is we will continue with this file, actually practically in the financial statements, the drafting, some editing, some journals, and therefore will be quite beneficial for you to join as well. In the session after that, on the 10th, we will look at some support cases that we get, so troubleshooting, also an interactive Q&A, and on that I have gotten quite a lot of questions. Thank you for that. Some regarding to the session and some regarding to specifics that you had issues on before that you used this opportunity for, and I'm very appreciative of that. What will I did try to reply to most of them during the session. There's here and there a mapping one that I just want to go and look at before I come back to you. But what we will do is also in the session 3, we will cover some of these questions, especially where we think it's relevant to the broader market. And if you have any more questions, please bring them to session 2 and session 3, and we can really work through those practical problems that you guys have. Because if you have it, there's definitely somebody else in the group that also have a similar problem. So we can just learn from each other. And then in session 3, we will also cover quickly XBRL and consolidations. This is not necessarily relevant to everybody, and it won't be part of, we won't do a practical session on that, but I do think it will be good to just go through the XBRL, what it is, when do you do it, how do you do it, very basic session on that, and the same with consolidations. So the bulk of the session will be spent on any use cases that we have. Okay, and I'm just gonna double check if there's any other questions. There is a few questions on the recording. Yes, the recording will be made available on the YouTube channel as soon as possible. We do just have to download it, edit it, upload it. It takes a day or so, but it will definitely be made available early next week. And also just remember for next session, if you didn't do it today, it is easier if you have 2 screens set up. or have two devices that you can use, that you can follow on the one and then you can use on the other one. Then also just on the e-learning, for everybody that did give their email addresses, we were able to go through all of them. All of you are registered and should have access to the portal. So you can use that link that I sent. You can go and look for the email. If you have any other issues, we will be reaching out during the course of the day to make sure that you are set up. But all of you should have access to those e-learning modules at this point. I'm just going to double check if there's any other questions. Recording. No, doesn't look like there's any other questions on my side. So thank you for that. Have a lovely day and we'll see you on the 3rd.